Hello, and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri with my awesome co-host, Amy Cornell. And I love shortcut shows. We haven't actually ever done, I don't think, an author tools shortcut show. But everybody loves a good, fun little shortcut or a tool or something just to make your life easier. So
it's so true. I feel like half of my Instagram suggestions are like hacks for either cooking or plants or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like everybody loves a good like hack, shortcut ways to make your life easier.
Yeah. Because, let's face it, book marketing is hard enough as it is without having to reinvent the wheel each time. So hopefully and then we're also talking about the ones that we hate. Because of course we have strong feelings about both sides of this. So let's start first with AI. So Amy and I both use ChatGPT. By the way, I don't know if you, and I always have to remind myself that by the time these shows hit, this is kind of sort of old news. But did you hear the AI generated Judy Garland reading The Wizard of Oz?
No.
Yes. So basically they're getting
it.
What?
I have to find it now. I mean, not like now, I'll stay on this.
Right. Yes. Sorry, we have to stop recording now. We're just to go look for. Yeah, if I find it, I'll send it to you too. And it was actually really cool. And it did not sound like Wizard of Oz Judy Garland, because of course she was much younger, but it was mature, older, super troubled life. That poor woman, right. Judy Garland. And it was really, and so what they said is they really just need 30 seconds of a voice. And what they're going to use this for, this got me really fired up. They're going to start using it for audiobook narration.
Oh, interesting.
Could you imagine?
No.
I would. Could you imagine? Like, I would absolutely. So, look, just an example, right? I've seen Gone with the Wind a ton. I haven't seen it recently, but I've seen it a ton. I've never read the book, which I know sounds really awful to say. I would absolutely, Vivian Lee and Clark Gable reading Gone with the Wind. Hello.
I know.
Totally listen to that book.
Absolutely.
So I think that AI it's this weird conversation, right? So it's this weird kind of thing that we want to make sure we love exploring it, but we also want to make sure that we kind of keep it in a box in a way, right? Because it's kind of like what's that old thing about the man and the machine, or the machines are alive, or something like that. And AI does get a bad rap for the reasons that we're talking about. But it's also, such a really handy tool. Now, we've used ChatGPT to help authors, if they're like struggling with their description, or they want to try to write content for their website. Because the problem with, and let's just be really frank about this, the problem with like writing a book description is we are all too close to our own books to write a book description that readers are going to want to buy. Right. And I've used it sometimes to write ad copy. Look, I'll come up with ad copy and I'll think, I think this could be stronger. And then I'll pop it into ChatGPT, and sometimes it comes up with something that still needs some tweaking, but the idea generator, it's such a great idea generator. I mean, Amy, you use it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of like having a sounding board, like your own personal peanut gallery.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. Plug it in there. And what's really great is that most of them will say there's a prompt that it's either not quite right or try again or whatever. All the different platforms usually have something like that. And I'll even do that to just kind of see what the next version is. And it's great for finding just slightly different ways to word things. Because to your point, Penny, we approach things from a very specific perception, biases, things like that. So it's just a really great way to get an unbiased, almost third party, not to sound weird about it, but feedback on wording, phrasing, things like that, that oftentimes you have this light bulb. And same, I don't typically end up using all of it by any means, but it's amazing how just the way one sentence is phrased differently, you go, that's it. That's the way it needs to be written to flow better, to, you know what I mean? Like add that tension you're looking for, all those things where you're like, it's almost there, but it's not quite there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that, I've used chat in much the same way. Saying chat GPT over and over again is very challenging. So we're just going to call it
It's
chat.
impossible. I think we decided like a year ago, we just have to call it chat because
Right.
it's like taking a sobriety test with everybody listening. It's like, no, I swear I can say it. I just can't say it more than twice. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting way to kind of bounce stuff off of. Like, it's almost like you have, like, not necessarily a writing coach, but you, you have a means to bounce stuff off of. One thing that I will say, I started using Leonardo.ai, I think that's the URL, for images, because I thought, now that we've experimented chat with all the writing, and I know that chat has its own kind of image thing, but I thought I'm going to check out Leonardo. And it's kind of funny, sometimes I'll send Amy these images. So I'm not clear, and I guess this will fall under maybe the things that we hate, sort of, but be careful with the imagery stuff, because it's a little bit of a, I don't know. First off, they never seem to get the hands right. The hands always seem like octopus hands or something. I mean, it's very strange, right?
there's always, if you want to look close enough, there's always something where you go, oh God, no. Like,
yeah. No, exactly. But Amy, one of the other things that we love is we love Canva. Canva
yes.
now has an AI generator in it. Have you used it? Because I know one of our staffers has used it, but
I've played around with it a little bit. I think it's definitely, in my experience, and this could be a me problem, this could be a user error. What I've noticed with the Canva version of it, it's got some great stuff if you are kind of in more of an open-minded place about what you can use. But for me, usually the times I've tried to use it, I've got something very specific in mind. And then I'm that person that's going, no, that's not right. No, that's still not right. So I think if you're using it when you're in a position to kind of go in, you have a direction, but you're really open to kind of sparking that creativity versus saying, I need something that looks just like this. I think it's easier. But again, this could be all user error too. It could be, we don't need to unpack that right now.
Right. But Canva also does templates. And I will tell you that you use Canva more than I do. But the only reason that I have not typically used it as much is because I'm never really good at images. But I have found that Canva, their templates are amazing, right?
Yeah, it really, I mean, they have templates for literally everything that you can imagine. All the major social media platforms for sure, but they also have templates and guidelines for, oh gosh, all sorts of business materials. They've got it now for a while. You're able to create 3D images of your book cover, which are always, I think you should always have those on hand. You know what I mean? The different 3D images for your book cover, because those, you can do so much with those. And, it's just really great because again, you're getting out of your own way, because if you look for these templates and you look for the right vibe, but then you can change the colors up to match your brand. There's a lot you can change, but it's just great to see like, oh my gosh, that font is really catchy. I like that. And I like the way the spacing is. And I think that's the part that gets really challenging with visuals a lot of times, is that unless you're kind of in that headspace for a lot, it's hard to get all of those little details like just right that really do make a very impactful image. So I so appreciate the templates on Canva because they really do have all of those little details that really do matter, in the final result. You may not see it when you're doing it on your own, but then you compare it to a template and you're like, oh yeah, that's so much better. Like,
Well, and the other thing though too is that Canva has a free they have, you can use Canva for free, but for $120 a year, I mean, we get so much out of, I mean, I would never be without a paid membership to Canva at this point, just because there's so much. I mean, I completely revised all my, um, reinvented, even though that word has been a little bit overused, but all my presentations, my
oh,
PowerPoint presentations they refreshed them. Yeah, they did it just, I cannot overemphasize enough. And for somebody, Amy has a much, much, much better eye for this. I do not. Um, for somebody who just really does not have, like they say, two left feet, I have two left hands when it comes to designing images. It's just so easy. It's really, really so easy. So we love that. Highly, highly recommend it. It's a great way to bank images
mhm.
for social media too. If you're gonna, just design out a whole bunch of images and then bank them and then schedule them. And
Yep.
speaking, Amy, do you want to take the next one about, because you do all of the company's social media. Do you want to talk a little bit about scheduling sites for social media? Because something
Yes.
weird's going on with that.
So I would love if anybody listening uses a scheduling site for their social media and one that you like, please write us because I love getting real feedback from other people on what they're using, what works. In theory, scheduling sites for social media are amazing. They've been around for quite a while. And basically the whole premise is that you can get on and you can do everything that you would normally have to do to go to individual platforms, but you do it all on one platform, including the hashtags, including the images. You can set the exact time and date that it's going to post. I believe you can even manage comments and things through some of them, Penny, because it'll import your comments. So you can literally, one-stop shopping, which sounds amazing. I will say the one thing that I've noticed with them, and you just really have to you might have to test out a couple different platforms to see what works for you. I have found that a lot of them, they seem very simple and kind of like jump right in. And that's how they get you to sign up for an account. But once you get going, sometimes they don't always have all the features you want for the price you like, the initial pricing. So that's part of it. Sometimes I've noticed there's a lot of requirements. And I told Penny, I was like, not to get all conspiracy about this, but I think, Meta, aka Facebook, Instagram, all the things, has bought a few of the big ones because they very much push and require you to connect all of your accounts. They require that you have a Facebook business account, which you have to apply for and get approved for. Most people aren't turned down. But again, it was interesting how for something that's supposed to be super simple and make your life easier, sometimes they could take a little while to get fully set up and running. But once you do, as you all can imagine, how great is that, especially if you're running more than one account, to be able to get on there, or if you're just busy with life. We always say, try to plan out your social content in advance if you can. So instead of dumping all your images into a folder or a Word doc where you're tracking your post text and things like that, in these apps, you can actually do all of that in advance and have it ready to go just through one application. But just know going into it, totally worth it, but don't be prepared to kind of have to jump through a few hoops, connect a few things, log into a few additional accounts. I think we're all getting kind of used to that now. Even to get concert tickets nowadays, it's like you have to download this new app and sign up for an account. It's like, dang, like I just, But
Yeah,
so just
exactly.
know going into it, it will probably not be as simple to get started with it as it seems, but again, if this would be a big time saver for you and you're currently spending more time than you would like making sure that you keep up with your social media, then it's definitely worth exploring some of the bigger options. Buffer Hootsuite's another one that's been around forever. Hootsuite, I do know, is one of those that has the Facebook requirements. But again, there are a lot of them out there. So, and I would also suggest getting specific. So if you only have Instagram, look for recommendations specifically for sites that are really great with Instagram. You don't need a platform that handles every single social site, if you only use Instagram. So maybe sometimes focusing on ones that are specific for that platform, you might find easier to use as well.
Well, and one of the things that I think has changed too with some of these scheduling sites is they're all charging now. So they didn't used
Mhm.
to do that, right?
Yeah.
So everybody is out to make a dollar or so. But yeah, there's still quite a few scheduling sites, but yeah, I think I don't know if it's I don't know if it's because of spammers and things like that. I'm sure all of that has made our life just so much more so much more difficult. So I love anything that can help me manage my email because I get a lot of email. Um,
Mhm.
I've used SaneBox for years, and SaneBox literally like it files. So when I get newsletters, it files it in a separate folder. All the staff emails go into a separate folder. So if I want to just see it, so it doesn't get lost in your inbox, right? Because usually, you have your inbox, and then that's the everything just gets dumped in there, and you have to weed through it. So SaneBox, if you get a lot of emails, I think it works with Gmail. I know it works with Outlook because that's what I use. But I love that. It does also cost nothing is free, but it's a great shortcut, and it works on my phone. It's fabulous. And the other thing that I really like about SaneBox is so I used to, and this is there's a terrible thing that I used to do, but I used to use my inbox as my to-do list, right? So I kept everything in my inbox that I had to do, and then I would just kind of work through it, which is really a terrible way to organize your day. So now with SaneBox, what I'll do is I'll forward something to that I have to address on a specific date. And it can even just be like next Thursday at sanebox.com, or September 15th at sanebox.com. So I know that that's when it's due. And it's great. And sometimes, like when Amy and I are working on projects, I'll tell her, I'll say, you know what, let's come back to this in 3 months. And I'll just set a reminder for myself for 3 months. So anyway, I can't say enough about that. I really, really
I
love
know that's really impressive, Penny. And as you talk about this, I hope some authors that are not that you can't find ways to use this at any point. Staying organized is always good. But as you were talking about, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, how helpful would this be, especially when you're still in the production phase too,
Yeah.
like for your editor, for your book cover person. And then you have one when you get your marketing team, and then you just know, you know what I mean? How fantastic is that to use as like, okay, I know I need to get moving on the cover. I need to check what's come in. I need to, you know what I mean? Next steps on that.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's really great.
it really is. It's a great tool. It's like I said, it helps me to kind of manage, especially like when I'm working through a book project and I'm trying to get it done. You have all these pieces, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then this reminder just pops up into into your inbox. And you're like, oh, okay, so I need to, um,
Hmm.
yeah. So it is a really, really cool tool. I love it a lot.
Okay, so this next one, I know I'm probably going to elicit a few groans, but but they've gotten even easier. I think everybody listening knows that there are basic like website builders out there, the DIY versions. Those have been around for a while. I will tell you, they are getting even cooler, even easier to use, even more modern and simple. You can really even avoid the drag and drop and even making decisions with a lot of these anymore. You just go with a look that you like and choose your colors and replace the text, and you are good to go. And I will say, this is such a great time saver, shortcut, hack. It kind of falls under all of those for just ensuring that you have a home base online for your author brand. I mean, having a website, I will say, I mean, it's important no matter what category or genre you're in. We say it all the time. It shows that you take yourself seriously. You know what I mean? You got a website. It doesn't have to have a lot on it. You can always build on it, but just get a place that shows, okay, this person means business. They bothered to they bothered to build a website,
Yeah.
in addition to releasing this book. I mean, you are asking people to spend their money and, more importantly, spend their time with a product that you have created. Show them a certain level of, you know what I mean? Like, I take myself seriously. I have a website. You can contact me. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It makes such a big difference. But I will say, Penny, I mean, it's almost, I hate to use the word inexcusable. It sounds so harsh, but if you were trying to compete in a pretty robust nonfiction space, you really have to have a website. You know what I mean? Like, it's just impossible anymore to only be an expert or only be a thought leader with a book and not have a website, not have a social presence, not have somewhere where people can see your other interviews, your other articles that you've written. You know what I mean? You really have to prove that you are more than just a book nowadays to really, I mean, not that you won't find some people to read your book, buy your book. If that's all you're interested in, fine. But if you really want, if you have lofty goals for as a nonfiction author, you really have to be more than just the book.
Well,
And so,
yeah, and the website, a lot of these website building apps are free now too.
yeah, I mean, you may pay like $10 a month if you don't want their little logo at the bottom, which, if it's in your budget, spring for it. But really, you're totally right. You can at least get it going, you know what I mean, for free. And then budget in some of the upgrades later if you really want to use them, like, contact form versus just displaying your email address. Like, there's always other things you can do. And like I said, you could build on these.
Yeah.
But it's important nowadays to just have somewhere, again, show that you take yourself seriously, show that you actually have a platform and a brand. And I promise you, it will make a difference in how seriously potential buyers take you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And this is kind of along the same line. I mean, stay in touch, building a platform, taking yourself seriously, having a real presence that you can continue to build on. And especially for future releases, if you are not just a one-time author, this is really important. Using an email program that you can stay in touch with your email list. You can also do marketing, promotions. There's so much you can do. I mean, they kind of all fall into the same category. And there's so many out there. MailChimp, Constant Contact, those are both been around forever. But again, we've mentioned templates a lot. There's no shame in a template. All of these email marketing companies now have really great templates that you can work from. And very plug and play. Pick a look that you like, insert your content, upload your contacts, and you're good to go. It's really so simple, and it makes it look so much more professional than just throwing everything into an email and BCCing everybody. Sorry, I hope I didn't offend anybody listening that's doing that right now.
Well, but the other reason that you really want to get into a mailing system, an email system like MailChimp or Constant Contact is because Google will ding you if you're emailing everybody, and like Amy said, and BCCing people. And I will say honestly, 24 years ago, 23 years ago, whatever, I did that initially because I was like, oh, I don't know, I have keep the newsletter. And now we've had the newsletter for, going on 24 years. But you will get dinged, especially now that everybody is so spam sensitive and whatnot. If you're just emailing people. So it's definitely worth an investment. And I think you can get, I think you can get up to like 100 contacts or something for free. So if you're just starting out and you're like,
you absolutely can. Oh, and Penny, one other point too. I was like, oh yeah, good. She caught this too. But we use this a lot. You can also track your data for your open rates. Who's opening, where they're opening, when they're opening, if your people are reading on their mobile device versus their desktop. It really does make it, and it's great information to have. And again, to your point, Penny, when you're just starting off, maybe it's like, I don't care if they ever open it. I just want to say I have 100 people on my list. We respect that. We get it. But as your list grows, especially since it costs you money, but also depending on what kind of content you're putting out there, we also use our open rate to some degree. We will assess it every once in a while as a measure of, is this working? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is the content we're putting out there working? What are the open rates like? Are we staying pretty consistent? And we definitely track it when we make changes. And there's been times where we've done big cleanups, and sometimes it can be scary, but then it's also really great because it helps you stay focused on who your real readers and followers are versus just amassing a big list of, one-timers that'll never engage with you again. You really will figure out who your, quote unquote super fans are by tracking your open rate and your list and things like that through a system.
Right. Exactly. So the next one we actually have not, I don't talk about this a lot, but I absolutely love it. I love Evernote. So I use Evernote, and you can actually, this is similar to SaneBox. You can email stuff that you get an email address and you can email stuff to Evernote. So we all, as an author, and I talk to authors a lot of times and they say, like, oh my gosh, I have so many web pages. I have so many, blah, blah. I don't know where I keep it all, and I've lost all this. I keep it all in Evernote. So things that I have to come back to, right? Web, newsletters that I need to read or web pages that I need to check out, I keep it all. And so what you can do with Evernote, and I think it's, what is it, $100 a year or something for Evernote. I have it on my phone, and I create little file folders. So when I'm working on a book, like I'll create a file folder for this book, and I'll keep everything in that file folder that I want to come back to, whether it's statistics or whatever. It's a great way to organize information. You can also send, pictures to it or images, or if you see, like, for example, if you're redoing your book covers, you're like, oh my gosh, I love these book covers. And I don't know about you, but I have a really bad tendency of keeping way too many screenshots on my phone. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Like, if somebody were ever to find my phone, they would probably just like run away, because I have so many. So what I do now is I'll take like I'll take screenshots, like, oh my gosh, I love this book cover. Like, I just have like book covers I love in Evernote, and I just have, either links to the Amazon pages or the actual covers that I snapped with my phone. It's a really, really great tool. It's a great way to organize just about everything. Haro is another tool. Now, Haro is free. I think there is also a paid version of it, but we have it for free. Helpareporterout.com is a great way to get media leads and things like that. I mean, there's all kinds of great things that Haro can do for you. Sometimes I'll put out a request for, we want to talk to authors, or we want to talk, like, I'm like the shoemaker who goes home to kids with no shoes. Like, I never have time to really pitch myself for anything. But I've answered stuff. Sometimes I'll answer stuff in Haro, and I've gotten into, of course, my absolute all-time favorite magazine, Costco magazine. I've gotten it, so there's a lot that you can do with. Do you notice how every show I managed to weave in? I don't understand why I'm not like a Costco influencer. I don't really get that, but anyway, but it is a great.
But no,
huh?
Yeah.
What?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were going to make some comment about me going rambling on about Costco, but and you never know. Like, they're sometimes they're local publications, sometimes they're national. It's a really, really great service. Highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's a really smart way. And, Penny, it's funny, I'm glad we're talking about it, because I think it's something that we don't point our clients toward enough, because we get tons of clients that are super proactive about wanting to be involved, wanting to support what we're doing, wanting to do their part. You know what I mean? And it really is a great platform if you are chomping at the bit to participate in your own success, to check in on a regular basis, to see where you might be able to insert yourself in different conversations. It's really smart.
Yeah, it really is.
And our last love,
and then we go into the stuff we hate.
I know.
Sorry, hate's a
Everybody stick around though. They're worth listening to. The last one, Uber Suggest. We like this one a lot. We've been using it for a while. There's so many different ways to use it. We specifically, use it for SEO, tracking our keywords for the website, for the blog, even for podcasts. It's also, they're really focusing on their AI writing as well. So it can be a great place to get ideas for an outline if you need to be writing more content, if you've fallen behind on your blog, if you want to write content, if you have articles that you need to write. We do a lot of pitching for clients that involve creating guest pieces or articles or Q&As and things like that. So there's really a lot that you can do with it. And I will say it's very intuitive in how, especially if you're new to using AI to write content, it really walks you through the process of outlining your piece. And it gives you different options along the way to choose from. So it'll give you, say, 5 or 6 different title options, 5 or 6 different opening paragraphs. And you really get to kind of choose what resonates with what you're trying to create. And I will say again, I like it anyway, but for somebody that's brand new to creating content with AI, it's definitely a nice way to ease into it, to know that you are actually in control of what's being developed. If you find AI a little freaky, like, where does it come up with this stuff? I think it's weird. This is actually a way to control it, but also get, that the content ideas that you're looking for as well, if you want to have a little more control over the direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, the keyword trackers are great. You can also check out, if you know who your competitors are, you can check out your competitors, what they're doing online, how they're ranking, things like that. I mean, there's so many different features to it that it's definitely worth, if you're at all interested in building your website's visibility, your search engine optimization, things like that. We do get clients, especially I would say more nonfiction clients, but that are concerned with that, that want to build that part of their platform and their brand. And Uber Suggest is a great place to start, that I will say is relatively, I've tried a few different platforms, and I will say Uber Suggest, once you get in there, is pretty intuitive. It takes a little bit of a learning curve, but I've definitely tried out much more complex ones that sent my head spinning.
Yeah, it is this is another site that we just would not be without. I mean, it's really really tremendous. It's very helpful. And it's also it's also a great tool for kind of, as Amy said, there's a lot of sites out there. There's a lot of them that are competitors, but it helps, it really breaks down the information in a way that's palatable and digestible. So which I really like too. All right, so let's start on our hate list. Things you should not use shortcuts for. Amy, do you want to do the first one?
Yes, using AI to edit your book.
Right.
I don't even know how this is a thing. I mean, y'all have listened to us now for, I don't have a clock going, how many minutes and how many times have we mentioned AI and how much we love it. So there are drawbacks for sure. And this is one, and this is an element of AI that I've, like, from day one have always had an issue with, is that while there's so many great things it can do, you still can't entirely mimic that human experience, that personalization that comes with it. And I mean, Penny, you can speak to this much more than I can, but the value in your relationship with your editor, who that person is, their experience, you know what I mean? Especially if they specialize in specific genres, how crucial that can be, and what an asset that is, and how much knowledge they bring to the table, just from being in the industry also, and working with different authors. I could go on and on. So using AI to edit your book, I think is dangerous. And I think there's a higher likelihood that you're going to lose out on those nuances that a human being is going to keep you accountable for, that really help readers connect with your content.
Well, and I also think that by the same token, using AI to write your book, and I know none of our listeners would do this, but I'm sure we all know. I had a conversation, and I'm not, hopefully not speaking out of turn too much, but I had a conversation with somebody who shall remain nameless, and this is maybe about 2 months ago, I think. And this author was telling me how they were generating all these books Um,
Ugh.
and do you remember that? Remember me telling you about that? And we were like, oh my gosh, this person is absolutely using AI to write all their books. And
Yeah.
I forget what question tripped this person up, but I think it was like, oh, well, you must have a really fast editor or something, and I said, and their English was really rough. So I asked, I said, well, do you use an editor? Because a lot of times when you are an international author, if you're using an editor, you have and you want to release a book, let's say in the UK, UK English is different than the United States. And if you ask anybody in the UK, they'll tell you that we hacked it and that our English is not really English, when it's not the Queen's English, whatever. But editors will, a really good editor will help you edit a book for a particular market. So I asked this person, I said, do you have an editor in the UK or and I forget now where this person was located, or in the US? Oh, no, we just write the books. And I'm like, oh my gosh, AI is writing all of it. And there were so many, I mean, they were like, this person, I think that they had 54 books or something.
And yeah, and I remember it was actually on the surface, like Penny, the fact that you dug into it and figured it out was impressive, because on the surface, I will say, like, they had their branding, like their book covers and everything were appropriate for the genre. They were doing a lot of things, quote unquote, right on a very superficial level. Like, these were not janky looking books either.
Right. But when I asked, I said, because, when I talk to an author, I always ask them to send me their book, even if it's, I don't care if it's full of typos. Like, I want to get a sense of your writing style and the story, if it's fiction, or your table of contents, if you've written nonfiction, whatever. And I asked for the book, and this person said, oh, I'm really worried about theft, so I don't send my books to anybody. And I thought, that is just so weird, right? Like,
Yeah.
that is just so. I said, well, and I explained to this person, I said, well, if we're going to send your book out for influencers or get more reviews, whatever, I'm going to need you to send copies of your book out to these people. Oh yeah, no, I don't. And flat out refusing to do that. It just struck me really odd. Anyway, we don't have to. I know I've gone really far down this. Oh my God, they're using AI to write their book rabbit hole, but I just found that to be so weird, right?
Mhm.
You have to be so careful. I mean, we talked about AI and how much we love it, but it is, you know, um, it is the monster in the machine. So you do want to be careful with it. Don't use it to edit your book. Um, and there's also, I talked to an author who used an app which is similar to which is also, I think, AI based, to edit their work, which is not just bad. Just stop. Just don't do it. And the same thing is true for, and this is even in the pre-AI, generation, using Word to edit your book. What? No, seriously.
Like spell check.
Spell check is not editing, people.
Not
Uh,
enough.
so anyway, so that's something that we hate. I'm sorry. I know I just like rambled on. I have very strong feelings about that. Um,
Well,
so
because it's true, Penny, we've seen the ramifications, like on a very basic level. Readers figure it out. Readers get frustrated. I mean, there's still plenty of times where I read a book. Um, it's interesting. It happens more when I read on Kindle. I have books, real books. I call them real books.
my
Real
books are
books.
real books. What are you
I
talking
know.
about? Are we getting
Real
into
books, and I know. I like to think of them as magic books, because it's just like right there in this little machine. I'm such an old person. But truly, I tend to see it more in Kindle formats than I do in print for whatever reason. But these are big books with tens of thousands of reviews that I usually get off of an Amazon editor, list or something like that, that I still see random like typos and things in. So it definitely happens to everybody, but readers always see it. You know what I mean? They
right?
always see it. And there's no hiding behind like, oh, it's edited enough or it's good enough. It's like, that is not a thing when it comes to editing by any means. And we've had a couple clients that have gotten bit in the ass with it's good enough as well, that ended up having to do a re-edit just because the feedback was consistent from readers saying, what is going on here? You know,
It's
you don't want that.
Yeah, it's really insulting. I mean, I think it's insulting to your reader if you're not taking the time. So anyway, we don't have to spend a lot of time on that. By the way, I may have to ask you a question. What did you mean by real books? You're not talking about audiobooks not being real books, right? Because audiobooks are real
Well,
books.
I don't really have a classification for that one.
Are we getting into this discussion? Uh, yeah.
Those are
Audiobooks.
phone books. Those are phone books.
Audiobooks are real books.
Yeah, they're all real books. But again, it's like my Kindle is my magic reading machine. It's like, it's just different. Like I can't, I know my real books are the ones I hold and flip pages. And then my magic reading machine has my other books.
Right. That's so
And then everything in audio is just a phone book because that's how I listen to those is through my
phone book. That's so funny.
Okay, the next one. Oi.
Can I
using Oh yeah, go for it.
No, go ahead. It's fine. I just have really strong feelings about this one too.
Oh yeah, we can both speak about this. But using basic templates, or this is verbatim in our notes, God forbid, Word to create your book cover. Please don't do it. I will say, Penny, just in the last couple months, we've had a couple people reach out to us and I had to tell them, we've all seen it. I wish y'all could see inside my brain right now to show you, because you'd probably all go, oh yeah, I've totally seen a book like that. But it was very much a couple different authors that were using a very specific format. It's very basic outline of a book cover template where you just literally plug and play, insert image at the top, insert title at the bottom. And it's like half blacked out, and two different authors, two books that looked almost exactly the same. And it's like, this is exactly why we say not to do this, you know? It was bad. It was real bad.
Well, and I think that also, there are a lot of options for book covers, including AI. And there are a lot of not expensive, but very good book cover designers. So there's no reason in the world to self-design your own book cover or to use that kind of shortcuts. Apply to things like email and, saving stuff in the folders. Like Evernote is really great. Your book cover should never be part of your list of shortcuts. Just like full stop.
No. And that's another one where you are too close to your own work to be objective about this,
Right.
And it's very easy to find what is working. I let authors know this all the time. Check the bestseller list. That will show you what is working. That will show you what's drawing people's eyes, what's drawing their attention. It is very, very unusual to see a book on the first page of an Amazon bestseller list that doesn't have a really solid cover. And then some of them, like if you look at historical fiction, are works of art. You know what I mean? Like, these are just incredible. So this is another area where good enough or I like it. That's another, Penny, you've talked about this before. Very dangerous to say like, well, I like it. It's like, well, then you're focused on the wrong things. If you're only focused on whether you like it and you're not focused on the people that are potentially that you want to buy it, that is a problem. You know what I mean? It's hard to stay objective when you're focusing on what you like versus what is actually working out in the market and what people are actually buying.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly true. And it's also, not to belabor this too much, but you put in so much time into this book. Don't bury it in a bad cover.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done a ton of shows on book covers and things like that too. So, the next one, I think do you want to start the next one, Amy? Because I know we both have very strong feelings about this.
Yeah. The one-stop shopping is what I refer to it as, is a shortcut. One-stop shopping. It's kind of when an author will come to us and say, I need help publishing. I need a book trailer. I want to be on the Today Show and I need 100 reviews the first week my book is out. And it's like, whoa, wait, what is happening? Like,
Right.
and it's one of those, if you have really, and that was kind of honestly, that was actually not that exaggerated. Like that has literally been an email that I've received before. But my point being, if you have really specific goals and needs, don't necessarily expect one group to be able to do all the things for you and do it really well. So
Yeah.
like if you need publishing help, it's typically in your best interest to find somebody that specializes in publishing assistance, walking people through that, whether it's coaching, whether you want to use a publishing service, marketing, same thing. Like we get people all the time, like, can't you help me publish my book? And then I'll also need marketing eventually. It's like, no, we know what we're good at. You know what I mean? There's a reason that we focus on what we focus on. And same thing, websites, social media management. Like we help in some aspects of social media, but social media management long term, that is some very in-depth understanding of branding and goals and your voice and things like that. And there are people that specialize in that for a reason. These are just some examples, but if somebody's going to do it really well, these are specialized skills. These are not things people wake up one day and like, I'm going to start making websites for authors. Well, actually some people do that. So watch out for them, but
Right.
they are probably not going to be the best person for the job if they're offering you, I can do it all. Just hire me and I'll do it all for you. You should definitely be wary about what kind of end result you're going to get.
Right. And I think that, the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none, is really, I mean, when I first started this business, like I really wanted to be a one-stop shop because that seemed really appealing to me. And at that time, Amazon was barely out of the crib. I mean, there was, Amazon was not the topic of conversation. But even Amazon's not a one-stop shop. I mean, they like to think they're a one-stop shop, but they really aren't. One-stop shopping is dangerous in publishing only because you can get there's always a catch to one-stop shopping, in my opinion. So you may be able to get all the things in the website, but maybe they own the website and you can never make any updates to it without trying to find somebody or get a hold of somebody. You know what I
Or
mean?
pay a crazy fee or pay, another huge fee. Like, oh, you want to update it? Ha ha ha,
Yeah, exactly. And I think the final shortcut that we hate is our review sites that seem to be too good to be true. So Amazon, I mean, there used to be a lot of places where you could send your book and you would get like 100 reviews or whatever, but Amazon's really started cracking down on that stuff. So you want to be very careful about these, like, where are these folks located? Because now you cannot gift a Kindle to somebody internationally, right? So it begins to be problematic. I mean, I don't want you to necessarily disregard review sites, but I would say be very careful, read the fine print, because there's no such thing as review sites that can generate hundreds of reviews for you at all, because Amazon could flag your book and you could lose they could actually pull your book if there are too many fake reviews on there.
Yeah, we had I was pointed toward a book recently, very recently, Penny, that I was like, okay, I want to see what this book is about. I want to see what people are saying about it, because it did have a handful of reviews. And I have to tell you, it was so obvious from the way the reviews were written that these people had zero familiarity with this book whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just wildly generic, yet also at the same time over the top complimentary. You know what I mean? It was just, you read it and you're like, oh my gosh, did their mom write all of these? Like,
Yeah.
it was just so clear that these were not genuine. And it's like, and the problem with that too, even if Amazon doesn't catch you and you don't get dinged somehow, or they don't all get pulled, other readers are not stupid. These shoppers, you know what I mean? Like, we're all getting even more savvy by the day when it comes to like kind of focusing on the BS online nowadays. And
Yeah.
when I read them, I'm like, this author did themselves a disservice by using what I assume was a review service that put up a bunch of reviews that come across as very disingenuous. And none of those are going to convince a real shopper to buy that book.
Right.
If anything, it'll do the opposite. So you really have to be careful about stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree with that. So, I hope that we hope that this show has been helpful for you. It's not just us ranting about things that bug us, but and use some of the, give most of the things that we recommend have trial periods. So give them a shot. See if they make your life easier, because I'm a huge fan of I'm a huge fan of hacks. As Amy was saying, we both love the idea of making these a little bit easier. And we welcome your show ideas as well as reviews wherever you listen to your podcast. If a review is difficult to post, email it to us. Our email address is always in the show notes. Thanks so much for your ideas and for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.